Hey, it's Dr. J. And guess what? It's a Tuesday. And as for our regular SAC members that listen to this is something that we do every second Tuesday now. And we're up to number 16. God, wouldn't have been believed it would have when we just discussed doing nutrition tips. Now we've got Jamie Hayes. And over the last, nearly, 2.5, 3 months, we've been going through the processes of teaching you how to not just lose weight, put on weight, but live better. And the nutrition we eat on a regular basis is we are what we eat. It's exactly the same as in sales. We do training, and then after a couple of weeks, you start making more sales. The same with nutrition. And it's not just about losing weight, it's what's going on the inside. And some of the tips that we've been having, and I must say that today we're going to recap some of them. Made a big difference in my life, my mum's life, and a few of my buddies, and also yours. So keep doing the things, but also give us some comments. Jamie loves to see what you're putting into practice. So Jamie, thanks for joining us all the way from Port Douglas.
Thanks, Steve. And in my background, my virtual background, I've got a photo I took yesterday from Cape Tribulation, which is about 50 k's north of Port Douglas. So I thought that was a nice little background there. And going through some of these incredible walking paths, they explain how the indigenous populations who lived there, how they would harvest different fruits and and use those to attract animals so that they could hunt and kill animals. And it's absolutely amazing. So, there's much, I think nutritionally, we've got much to learn from the indigenous people that inhabited Australia for the last 50,000 years.
Look, I must say, that you took, so that's a beautiful photograph. And guys, for those of you that listen to this from overseas, Jamie's up in Queensland, which is North Australia. It's a beautiful part of the country. It's freezing cold here in Sydney. It's going to be around about 10, 12 degrees today with a chill factor of about 8. And where he is, it's 27 degrees and sunny. So we live in a very big country, and I must say it's always good to have a chat with you. And I love the way that you've talked about some of the stuff that people that do, the indigenous people all around the world, and what grandma and grandpa has done, because I think sometimes all the refined foods that we have and the convenience of having things in shopping centers and so forth just takes away the nutrition. And I was reading just the other day that some of the fruits and vegetables that we eat that are usually seasonal are put into deep freeze, and they just brought out every now and then to be sold. And because they're in deep freeze, they do lose a lot of their nutritional components. And then we're eating the stuff that we think is fresh, and it certainly is not bad, but the nutritional component actually is a lot lower. And
it'd be less. I mean, you're still better off having frozen vegetables and fruits than none.
Well, yeah. Well, I'll put my hand up. So I've had my frozen veggies in the fridge and chop them up myself. But I must say, I've reduced my carbs. I've eat with knives and forks, no bread. Make sure that I'm conscious of when I'm eating and not eating, and all of the great things that you put into play, and all of the nutrition tips. So what are we going to cover today, mate?
Well, Steve, I definitely want to do some reminders. I've got 10 big reminders. But look, just traveling up here in Queensland, and I'd just like to apologise for my sound. It's not as good as it is normally because I actually am in a pretty echoey apartment, but I've tried my best to make the sound as good as possible, so I apologise for that.
Hopefully, take your time out of your holiday, mate. It's just it's really great of you. Thanks, mate. I appreciate it.
No, it's a pleasure. But I've just got to say how dismayed I am. When we've got things like the COVID virus floating around, and there will be other viruses in the future. How just disabled people are. And they've disabled themselves with their knives and forks in hands by their food choices. And there are just so many people that are grossly obese. And do you remember those little toys that just shuffled along? Boom, boom, boom. Little plastic toys we had as kids. Just people walking like that. They're lucky to be able to walk. And, clearly they've got diabetic retinopathy and, and neuropathy. And so, their nerves of their feet, are gone. And then even worse, seeing what people are feeding their kids. And unfortunately, some of the natural, not resorts, but, where you go and look at the crocodiles and stuff like that, and have 3 or 4 hours, learning a lot and seeing some incredible animals, like 4.5 meter crocodiles, that weighs 700 kilograms, just amazing. And then you go into the cafe there and it's all fried food, and you see obese parents giving their already chubby children fried food and fruit juices and soft drinks, and these kids probably have NAFL, NAFL, or non-alcoholic fatty liver disease already, and they're barely 8, and you can see that they're headed towards, firstly, probably puberty years earlier than they should be, and pre-diabetes, and so non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, which means their liver looks exactly the same as an alcoholic, and they're 8. So imagine that cafe saying to the kids, and would your kids like vodka with that?
Jesus.
I'm serious, because the effect is on their liver is the same. So they are absolutely, we're breeding a subclass, and it's absolutely terrible to see. So anyway, enough of my ranting, but it does.
You think it's because of the convenient factor? I mean, you're right. You go out and you go to have some fun with the family or with your partner, whatever the case may be. To go to a place to buy some food, it's usually takeaway type stuff. It's going to be chips, it's going to be hamburgers, it's going to be things that are quick. Is it because it's convenient and it's also cheap, so they get a ROI? Is that one of the things?
It's all of that, and it's the unavoidability of it and the addictive nature of it, high sweet, high salt and other ingredients that just make it completely addictive, unavoidable. Often I have watched parents and grandparents standing in the line at McDonald's, buying their kids a treat, for want of a better word. And then I watch them go and sit down, and often those parents and grandparents, of course, they get themselves a serve and they hoe into it. And I thought and question, why are they doing that? What is their purpose? And I've come to suspect that many of these parents and grandparents who buy their kids absolute crap are sugar addicted themselves and are using their kids as an excuse for their own fix. So suffer the poor children. But you do sometimes see parents out there, and they'll go to the cooking stations and they'll cook up a meal, or they've brought some food, and they're giving their kids water. And so you do see parents making active choices to keep their kids healthy. So, and we were driving around before we left the apartment here because we wanted to see the sights. We boiled up 6 eggs, and had a little bit of olive oil and some salt with it. And so that was a fantastic snack, So it was easy to do, easy not to do.
It's a discipline, Jamie, and that's what you just said is something that is, unfortunately, in business and also in our personal lives, it's creating that discipline that then creates a habit. Habits cannot come from anything other than discipline. And you created the discipline. And it's interesting when you have people in business that are continually role-playing, practicing, they do their training, they write their notes, they do their data on a daily basis, and they then see people that don't. They say, oh, are you serious? Wow. It's because they've got that neural pathway, that habit that's created from the discipline. And I think that's the hard thing. And that's why you need a coach. That's why you need someone to hold your hand a little bit, because if we've got bad habits, to break those patterns, it's quite difficult. And they'll go out as a family, they'll just have their habit and they don't have the discipline to change it. So we can't do it alone, mate.
Absolutely. Like, my family taught me, firstly, you don't pick up your knife and fork until your mother does. So it doesn't matter how hungry you are. and you put your knife and fork down between bites. So you see people just mindlessly eating. They've got no discipline. They've got no good habits to protect them and to protect their children. Now, you did.
There needs to be someone that says, like mum and dad, don't do this. Look, it's all back down to teaching either your kids or your team. But I think you've hit a bit of a raw nerve. I think that people do the things that are convenient. They don't have the discipline, so it doesn't create habits, and then it creates bad habits. And then we start doing things which are not, you can't see what the problem is, but all of a sudden it then rears its ugly head with obesity and other things. And it's the silent killer. So I think discipline and having coaches and people to remind you that care, that have that discipline will make the difference. I haven't seen a better way of doing it.
Anyway, I brought 10 reminders for people today. Well, that's 10. 10, you can see that, 10 reminders today. So how about we share those 10 reminders, and if people have missed out one, they might say, that was the one I should have paid attention to. Do you mind if I share my screen?
That'd be great. Look, repetition's the mother of learning and skill. The more we hear it, the better it is.
So let's see. Hang on. And I've just called these weight loss rules. So let's see. Share screen. There we go. Let's go there. I think that'll work. Can you see my screen there?
You can.
Thanks so much. Great. So these are just weight loss rules. They're not necessarily my rules, but I think these are 10 things that people could consider. Firstly, and this is about being proactive, which is to pre-plan your meals. So you pre-plan your shopping, so you manage your food environment to match your plan. Because, when we look at those people out there just buying crap because there was nothing else available. Now, they didn't pre-plan their meals. They didn't pre-plan their shopping. They didn't manage their food environment, whether they were traveling on holidays or whatever like that, or they didn't even have a plan. So whatever you want to achieve, you've got to have a plan, and definitely, an eating plan. So you've got a shopping plan so that in your fridge, in your pantry, mainly in your fridge, or wherever you go, you've got the food that's going to support, your goals. So that is my number one biggest tip. I've got 10 tips, but that is the number one tip. And you want to have a plan that's based upon success, where other people have been successful doing that plan as well. Not just beliefs, because your body might not agree with your beliefs. We always bump into people who are either chronically unwell or overweight or underweight, and they say, I believe this, I believe that. And you look at their body and you silently say to yourself, well, how's that working out for you? So that's the first step, pre-plan your meals. Number two, and we've said this before, prioritize quality protein in every meal and snack. And, just learning more about Indigenous populations, and I've learned more as I've been here, they went out of their way to find quality sources of protein, to catch it, and to kill birds and kangaroos and possums and, lizards and snakes and eggs and crocodile eggs and crocodiles themselves, So they really did prioritize protein in every meal and snack. And often they went without meals for, or something to eat for days and days and days. And of course, they would eat whatever's available. So if they could gather, fruits and vegetables and seeds and things like that, they would absolutely do it. Because we know that protein satiates, so it helps you stay ahead of hunger. Hunger's the enemy of weight loss. So and so particularly the first meal of the day, getting enough quality protein. And when I say quality, highly bioavailable protein. This typically comes from meats, fish, eggs, dairy, things like that. To a lesser extent, chicken, but because you want the protein with its naturally occurring fat. That helps on a whole range of issues. The chop with a little bit of fat on it, the steak with a little bit of fat within it, the fish that has, fat within it. So the naturally occurring fat. So, prioritize quality protein every meal and snack. And if you have to carry it with you, a bit of whey protein shake, fine. But get that in. Number 3, eat real food. So remember, Steve, in the past, we talked about how to read food labels, and it was simply the rule: stop eating food with labels. Because you want to minimize packaged, processed, and particularly fried food. As a matter of fact, we went for a walk up the hill. It was, really got our heart rate up this morning. And we went past Port Douglas's #1 restaurant, and there is a big fat-sucking truck, sucking the fat out of the grease traps, So I wonder what they were cooking the food in. So really fried food, you absolutely want to avoid that, because it's awfully fried in, refried polyunsaturated vegetable oil and things like that. So I would minimize that. Number 4, do not have sugar and honey in the house. And don't add it to food and drinks. So it's absolutely toxic, and it is non-nutritive calories. So, and Steve, you and I grew up. Do you remember the advertising slogan, "Sugar is a natural part of life"?
Yes, I remember that. Yes.
Well, that was a great slogan from the sugar industry, who had a commercial interest to have us, put sugar in our tea and coffees. I remember, one lady a young lady coming to one of our weight loss centres, and we said, "Do you have any sugar in your tea or coffee?" She said, "Only 2." And we said, "How many cups do you have tea or coffee?" She said, "I don't drink coffee, I only had tea." We said, "How many cups do you have a day?" "Oh, about 20 or 22. So she was having like 44 teaspoons of sugar every day. So it's non-nutritive, which means it adds no value whatsoever. It actually disrupts your metabolism. And then don't drink fruit juice, and definitely don't serve it to your children, because fruit juice are very high in fructose. And so sugar as a molecule is half fructose, half glucose. Your body has better ways of dealing with glucose than it does fructose. Fructose goes straight to the liver. And so if you really want to give your kids non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, juice them up with fruit juice. Drink your juice, Johnny. If you want them to have fruit, get them to have fruit. But as soon as you juice it up, it's going to go straight into the bloodstream. They'll typically have the equivalent of 2 or 3 or 4 or even more, pieces of fruit. So they won't have the fiber, they won't have the nutrients. So just don't drink it. So it's just of no value.
So
yeah.
About fruit juices too. I think some people say, "Well, I'll do vegetable juices instead." But
if they were green vegetable juices, not too bad, because they're very
tomato is a fruit, and people don't understand that. So I think that's a big rock for this morning is fruit juice. I'll go get it all cheese. Oh, it's good for you. It's fruit juice. No, it's not. If you want some fruit, eat the fruit. Other than that, have a black coffee or a glass of water.
Absolutely. I mean, tomato is admittedly a low carb fruit, and fruits, they how do you identify them? They have seeds. So it is a low carb fruit. Of course, when I had tomato juice, I would have a Bloody Mary, vodka and tomato juice. But, and so, if you're choosing low carb fruits, low sugar fruits, and, greens and things like that in the juice, absolutely knock yourself out. So that would be fine. But don't rely on that as a meal, because there's no protein there, or just trace elements of protein.
So it's a fallacy to say, "I'll just drink your fruit juice, it's good for you. I'm being healthy. I've got an apple juice, or I've got having an orange juice." It's got a stack of fructose in it.
And it's going to spike your blood sugar. So your 5 liters of blood can handle, optimal level is about 1 teaspoon of sugar. That's one of those tiny little satchels. So it's just going to spike blood sugar, with 5, 10, 15 teaspoons of sugar equivalents. So if you're having green juices, low sugar fruits, where you've got some nutrient value, fine. But don't. And if you need to make a meal of it, add some protein. You could add some whey protein powder, which is absolutely much more bioavailable than vegan protein powders and things like that. So you could do that. Some people add eggs to a smoothie and things like that. There are issues with having raw eggs. I choose not to, but so not too bad as long as you're doing the low sugar versions of a juice.
Great. Well, that's good. So a lot of people think that juicing is good for you, but ultimately you're better off having a smoothie, having the just munched up.
Absolutely. I mean, but you want high nutrient value, but low calorie value, and particularly low sugar value. So let's sort of come back here. Where am I? Can you see that?
Yeah, sure can.
Great. And then point 6, maximize your non-eating window. So we talked about having your last meal of the day earlier in the day and having the first meal of the day later in the day. So Ellen, she has her first meal of the day at 12, or somewhere around that. Sometimes she'll go to 1 or even 2 o'clock. So there is no golden rule that, breakfast is the most important meal of the day. So we want to have at least a 12-hour non-eating window because this helps our metabolism, particularly our insulin regulation system, help it normalize. And one of the best things you can do to boost insulin sensitivity or avoid insulin resistance, which is absolutely chronic around America, around Australia, the United Kingdom, and things like that, is to bring down and normalize and optimize your insulin levels. And one way to do it, apart from the other strategies we're sharing here, is simply to increase your non-eating window. So that's your fasted state. We break a fast with breakfast, and narrow your fed state. So a bigger fasting state, a smaller fed state. So you might say, if you're in the habit of having breakfast at 5, you can say, gee, am I comfortable having my first meal at 10 or at least 7? Instead of having a super late dinner at night, am I comfortable having, like at 9 o'clock at night? Why don't I think of having an earlier dinner at 7 o'clock? And maybe you might notice you sleep better as well.
So if the earlier you eat, the better you might sleep. Is that right?
Well, it's possible. So all I'm saying is the true expert is your body. So you make it. It's sort of like in sales. You use a different strategy, different tactic, a different script or something like that. And you notice, does this affect my conversion rate? Is that correct?
Yes, that's right.
And it's exactly the same as this. You monitor your sleep, and there are technology for monitoring your sleep quality, but just how you feel in the morning. Now, let's say you just eat your last meal 1 or 2 hours earlier, and then you ask yourself in the morning, did I sleep better? Or if you're sleeping with a partner or wife, husband, whatever, you might say, darling, did I snore less? Yeah, so there's other ways you could measure that.
That's right.
So maximize your non-eating window. So that's all about meal timing. And it's good to just keep a track of that. Gee, am I doing this out of habit? I get up and just have my breakfast, or can I get to work and have the first meal? Take it with me. And here's another idea which we haven't discussed before, which is, I think it's more important than ever right now, to spend time with friends. Of course, you've got to socially distance where appropriate. It depends upon what state you're in. Are you there, Steve?
Yeah, sure am.
Okay. But here's the idea. Go out with friends at home. So, Steve, let's say you're going to meet friends for dinner somewhere, and you simply say, guys, come over to my place. I have no idea what we're going to eat. As a matter of fact, let's cook something together. It might just be some chops and salad or something as simple as that. I guarantee you'll have a better quality conversation. And if you want to support the local restaurants, bring your friends over and order from the local restaurants. There's lots of delivery services, but you will be able to hear each other better because so many of these restaurants are just so noisy. I won't get on my hobby horse about that. But just go out with friends at home. At their place, you could bring a dish or something like that. But nothing's more fun than just cooking a meal together. You sit around, chat while we're cooking. I mean, you've come to our place, you've watched when we've cooked together. I might go out to the barbecue, throw a few things on, come back in. And it's just so easy. And we might even wash up together, So it socially, and I think it's just good for your health to sort of go out with your friends at home.
Oh, that's great. And you certainly walk the talk, Jamie. And the food's always so fresh and yummy, and it's done quickly. You're chatting with your friend as you're cooking it, and it's social. It's a great idea, and you're spot on. And you hear each other talk.
Absolutely, and probably saves you some money as well. So that's a good. That's definitely something I recommend you do on a regular basis. You could do it with people in your apartment building. Let's have a cookout together, Here's another thing we haven't discussed, which is, and keep a copy of your blood tests. As we move into our 40s, 50s, or 60s or beyond, most of us see our doctor maybe once a year or every 6 months, and the doctor orders a normal panel of blood tests. So you can say to your doctor, "Oh, doctor, could I have a copy of that, please?" Now, if your doctor says, "Why do you want a copy?" He said, "Because it's my body, I want to have a copy." Mind your own effing business. But I just want to keep a track of, my blood profile. And Steve, in the past, I've spoken about insulin resistance and how if your waist is more than 50% of your height, that is a sign that it's likely you have undiagnosed insulin resistance, pre-diabetes, which is not good, particularly with viruses floating around, not good for your immune function. But you can also use your blood test as a predictor of pre-diabetes, which is simply to look at your triglycerides over your HDL, because you do not want that to be more than a ratio of 2.0. So we all get our blood tests. This is something we could do. And if it is, and insulin resistance is caused mainly by our dietary choices and to a lesser extent by our physical activity choices. So if it's caused by that, the solution is diet and exercise. So this is a very, very simple calculation to make. It's likely that, if your doctor's worried about it, he may or she may have ordered a fasting sugar test, but it's completely possible to have a normal fasting sugar test, but to have a high insulin, which goes undetected. And this can go undetected for years and decades before suddenly you've got insulin resistance. I call it the boy who cried wolf syndrome. High insulin, knocking on the cells of the liver, the muscle cells, the fat cells, even the brain. That they say Alzheimer's is diabetes type 3. Some people say that. And suddenly your cells become resistant to insulin. And so this is just a good strategy. You encourage salespeople to measure what's important. As a matter of fact, Steve, my holiday reading, is the Bezos letters. You can just see that, the Bezos letters, about Jeff Bezos. And he says, measure what matters. Measure what matters. And you, with your clients and your members in the SAC, you get them to measure what matters, don't you?
So it's perfect. It's just measure the stuff that you're going to be, that gives you the information. Although don't measure it at all. Forget about it. Some people go overboard with their measuring, but just have simple things that they measure every day than just having lots of things that you should be doing but never do.
That's right. And particularly, measuring those key ratios. So, waist to height ratio, you don't want it to be over 50%. Triglycerides to HDL, you do not want it to be over 2. You want it to be under. And And how do you change this? Well, the good news is you go on a very, very low carb diet and your triglycerides will drop and your HDL will go up. So that ratio will change within days and weeks, regardless of whether you've actually lost weight. So imagine this. Imagine the news saying, here is a drug that can reduce your vulnerability to faring poorly should you get any virus. Just take this drug and within days or weeks, your resilience will improve. I mean, that would be $1 trillion seller. Well, I'm telling you, that drug is absolutely free, and it's called, eating the right foods and doing some damn exercise. And you can start that at any weight, at any age. Mm. So, but keep a copy of blood tests. That's number 8. Number 9, and in your introduction today, you said, set a goal and, have a plan and stuff like that. So set a weight loss goal or a weight loss goal and a time, because you need time-bound goals. Now, I would encourage people to set a goal. I think realistically around 400 grams per week as a weight loss goal. Let's say maximum a kilo a fortnight or 2 kilos a month. Males may, if they're on the right plan, might lose a bit faster, maybe 3 kilos a month. But so if somebody needed to lose, 10 kilos, then 2 kilos a month, that's 5 months. So right now we're in the start of August, so that's September, October, November, December, January. By January, they could be 10 kilos lighter. So that's pretty good.
That's awesome, because if they start having a goal, I think sometimes when you get a goal and you're really want to achieve it, the pain of not achieving it is far greater than the pain of actually going through the activity. But then it has something that's pleasurable at the end of it. I think people really strive hard, but I don't believe that us as human beings, well, only a small percentage can do it alone. So I think having a weight loss goal, but also having somebody to help them with it, having not just a diet, but actually have somebody that's going to give you good nutrition, not dieting, and a push to have accountability. That's a big word, I believe, that makes a difference.
And, look, I completely agree. I think you've seen my slide 10. Well, you haven't. I know you haven't because you haven't seen it, but we're going to get there. Last night, we were on this sunset cruise and we were chatting with a very nice person, one of the leaders in Queensland tourism, really, with, a very high executive role, very intelligent woman. She's got a, we didn't meet her husband. He was, back doing other work, obviously an educated man. And she said he is struggling with his weight. It wasn't about having access to enough information. I mean, you and I could go to Dr. Google about diet and we'd come up with 1.5 billion, sort of results, so it's not lack of information, but it's the right information, having the right plan and the right accountability. So let's go. Thank you, Steve. You're always reading my mind. Step 10. And here it is, recognize your change pattern. Can you realistically do it yourself, or are you best with a program, a coach, and accountability? And I this morning I read in the Australian about a UK doctor who he and his wife are in their 80s now. And when he was in his 50s, he just looked at his stomach and he said, that is not acceptable. And he changed his diet and he changed his exercise. It was interesting what he said about exercise. He said, I exercise and get outside for the physical enjoyment of it. And here he is in his 80s and he looked fantastic. For the physical enjoyment, I use diet for weight loss, but I exercise for the physical. He has a strong association with the physical enjoyment of it. And I can assure you, when Ellen and I were walking around the path following the ocean, up those stairs, getting out of breath and things like that, It was a privilege to be able to run up those stairs. It was a privilege to be able to enjoy the Australian coastline, to be out there and getting up a bit of a sweat and getting breathless and things like that. It is a privilege, so did we enjoy it? Sure. No, but you have to recognize, let's say you set that goal of 10 kilos by January, and after 3 months, you hop on the scales or you measure your waist and you say, it ain't happening. I'm playing around the edges. Well, then you're better off with a program and a coach and accountability partner. Somebody is going to hold you accountable. We like to have coaches get together with people, every week, same time every week, and it makes such a difference. So, you're right on cue. We all think, DIY, I can do it myself, and good on those people who can, and this is nothing to do with intelligence. So, really, encourage people to consider that. So that was actually my 10th step, because you want to make a difference. You do want to make a difference.
You're much more politically correct than I am, mate, because look, I've been training, coaching people for decades now, and whether it was within a business or on my own or with my own companies, and I've seen no one who has been really good at what they do that has done it by themselves. You can't do it alone. I mean, you've had many companies, all very successful. We've got great mates that have had multiple businesses. How many can we say have done it all by themselves? I certainly haven't. I've got great mates like yourself and other people that I go and ask for help. And
I know that you pay for coaching, with Michael and people like that. So, and I don't think we could name a leading, let's say tennis. I mean, name a top level tennis who doesn't have at least one coach. I mean, they've got strategy coaches, skilled coaches, strength coaches, mindset coaches. They might have 3 or 4 coaches.
All the leaders in the world have coaches and other people, because we can't be that arrogant to say that we know it all ourselves. Now, if you think you are, you're in the wrong room. So so get in amongst the other people that are smarter and can drive you. I mean, if you're arrogant and strong and you're a powerful person, you've got to have someone that's going to be able to pull your chain, because, the Muhammad Ali's and the Mike Tysons, fierce competitors, they'll have a coach that gives them a clip hit behind the ear.
Absolutely, they will.
So I don't believe that we can. I mean, do it by yourself? No, I've not seen success in that area, not in my world. Now, I'm going to give you, you do everything just so generously, but I want everyone to know that people can have that. And your business that works with the ICT model, the individual carbohydrate tolerance model, that actually finds out what that is and then coaches people accordingly with Dietplex and Keto Fitness and also Healthy Inspirations. You have 3 companies that do it. I think people need to be able to reach out to either one of your studios or maybe contact you about Dietplex.
Sure.
Fitness. Now, and it's Dietplex, which has the coaching as well as the
Healthy Inspiration and Dietplex both have coaching, weekly coaching. You meet your coach either face-to-face in the center or increasingly online via Zoom. So it doesn't matter where you're located. Our Dietplex coaches have had simultaneous clients in San Diego and Israel. It doesn't matter where you're located.
And they have accountability on a weekly basis, and if you fall off the apple cart, they pick you up. You can do your exercise, but also remember, most of the first 10 kilos comes off in the kitchen if they want to have weight loss, but it's wellness as well. So how can they get in contact with a Healthy Inspiration? I take it's a website, or how can they go?
Or just go to Jamie at dietplex.com.au. Jamie, Jamie, at Dietplex, Dietplex.com.au. And why did we call it Dietplex? Some people say, I don't believe in diet and things like that. And our brand story is because one diet does not suit everybody, and you mentioned, especially in regards to individual carb tolerance. Dietplex is a flexible, supported process to help each person develop the diet that's right for their body. And it's a step-by-step, like Healthy Inspirations, It's a step-by-step process, but guided by a coach that takes you from pain to paradise, a coach that takes you through the program over the mountain. You know, imagine climbing a mountain, climbing Mount Everest without one of those, you know, coaches that have been there before, you know, to guide you step by step by step and hold you accountable. So, you know, absolutely, there's a role for coaching. So feel free to do it yourself, knock yourself out. But if you want a program, don't want to fuss around, time is valuable, and your health is valuable, you know, having a program and a coach to hold you accountable is a good way to go.
Absolutely. Look,
thank you, Steve.
Tomorrow never comes, my friends. Never comes. Oh, I'm going to do it tomorrow. I mean, I was talking to another friend that does another type of business. He says, oh, people are going to get started next week. And next week is always next week. And it becomes the procrastination disease. And it's a thief of opportunity and time. So you take action now. So thanks, Jamie. It's really awesome.
Well, Steve, it's absolutely a pleasure. And if anybody want to reach out with any questions, of course, always happy to field questions. And thanks for giving me the opportunity to share just a few of these tips with, particularly with the SAC members. So, and congratulations. Obviously, they're doing super well being coached by you.
Look, it's been terrific, and the feedback has been outstanding. I know some of them have taken on board and jumped in, got some coaching, and they're having great results. And with all of you guys out there listening to Jamie, he's on his holidays now at Port Douglas. He actually had to get on a plane, go all the way up there. He took all his bits and pieces to talk to you. So I'm incredibly grateful. You should be incredibly grateful. But you know what would make Jamie happy is if you did something with your diet. Just type in some stuff that you take on board of those 10 steps and put something into action. Or, as I always say, get a coach. To Dietplex, Jamie at dietplex.com.au, and want to make sure that you have a conversation. And Jamie was very generous. We'll give you some ideas and maybe connect you with a coach.
And we've got coaches in Australia and New Zealand, by the way. Yeah.
Terrific. Action is
everything. Well, that's all I've got to share today. So I hope everybody has a very healthy day and a healthy week. Set your plan and set some goals.
Planning is everything, and action is what actually makes it happen. It's the doing, not the learning, that makes it happen. So, guys, hope you took some notes. Listen to this again. Go through those 10 steps. And if you need some help, reach out to Jamie and the crew from Dietplex, and they can kick some goals. All right, gang. See you soon in the SAC, and we'll see you when you're a little bit older. Bye.